In 2015, Wall Street came to Las Vegas. They didn't come to gamble. They didn't come to invest. They came to take over the ownership. On the surface, nothing has changed. The casinos didn't close. The lights stayed on. The crowds kept coming. But behind the scenes, something has quietly, fundamentally changed. Wall Street didn't buy the Strip to run casinos. They bought it to collect rent. And when you change who gets paid first, you change everything. So what happened in 2015? To understand that, you need to first look at how Vegas has evolved through 4 distinct eras. It started with the mob era. We're talking 1940s to 1970s here. Vegas was basically organized crime with neon lights. The Flamingo, the Sands, the Desert Inn, casinos were cash businesses. Money flowed in. Some of it got counted. The mob cared about owning the casinos to control the cash flowing through the poker tables and slot machines. Then came the corporate era, from the 1970s to the late 1980s. The mob got pushed out. Public companies moved in. Kirk Kerkorian, an American investor, bought the MGM Grand in 1973. Holiday Inn bought Harrah's, and Wall Street started paying attention. Companies could now raise money through stock offerings and corporate bonds to build casinos. Banks would lend to them. Institutional investors would buy their shares. It was legitimate money now. Balance sheets, quarterly earnings, SEC filings. But casinos were still seen as gambling halls. Profitable, sure, but not exactly respectable. Wall Street treated Vegas like a vice industry with decent cash flow, not like prime real estate. Then everything changed with the mega resort era, from 1989 to 2015. Steve Wynn changed the game completely with the Mirage in 1989. This was not just a casino anymore. It was a destination, a volcano, dolphins, white tigers, an indoor rainforest. Wynn proved you could make Vegas family-friendly, or at least spectacle-friendly. Suddenly, Vegas was not just about gambling. It was about experience. The Bellagio followed in 1998, then the Venetian, then Wynn Las Vegas. Massive resorts, massive debts, massive visions. Back then, patience was not only a virtue, it was an asset. The theory was, magic came first and the math came later. But things changed, quietly in front of our eyes. There was no new style of resort being built, no drastic change in the offering, so most of us did not notice the mega resort era had left town. Because since 2015, Vegas slowly moved into the rent era without telling anyone. For decades, Las Vegas operated on a model where casinos owned everything. They owned the land, they owned the buildings, they owned the risk and the upside. That ownership structure created a specific kind of logic. Look at Steve Wynn. He did not just build the Mirage in 1989. He built a volcano that erupted every 15 minutes. It cost him $630 million in 1989. That is over $1.5 billion in today's money. The volcano did not make money, it brought money. Same thing with the Bellagio fountains. It cost about $40 million to build in 1998. They use 22 million gallons of water in the middle of the desert. They run every 15 to 30 minutes every single day. Nobody charges admission. Why? Because when you own the land, you can afford to lose money on spectacle, because that spectacle drives people through the door. That only works when the casino operator owns the real estate. And Wall Street saw an opportunity to change that. In January 2015, Caesars Entertainment filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This was one of the largest casino bankruptcies in U.S. history. Caesars was sitting on roughly $18 billion in debt. The casinos did not shut down. The buffets stayed open, and the slot machines kept running. Customers did not notice what was happening behind the scenes. Wall Street creditors could have sold the Strip properties and taken some money back. Instead, they saw an opportunity to get long-term income. They restructured the debt into ownership of the real estate. That real estate got placed into a new company called VICI Properties. VICI is what's called a real estate investment trust, a REIT. It exists to own property and collect rent. Caesars Entertainment became an operator, a tenant. Their job was to operate the casinos, including Caesars Palace, The Link, Harrah's, and Paris Las Vegas. Instead of paying interest on debt, Caesars began paying rent, $630 million a year to start. That number has only grown since, every year. Non-negotiable. Debt did not disappear. It became rent, and Wall Street became the landlord. This was not like when the mob was pushed out by corporations. This was corporations being pushed out by Wall Street landlords. And here's why this matters. This wasn't just a one-time bankruptcy fix. In 2016, MGM Resorts International, one of the most profitable casino operators in the world, voluntarily copied the Wall Street model. MGM wasn't bankrupt. This was strategic. Wall Street firms like Blackstone saw the opportunity: buy trophy real estate, lock in long-term rent, and collect predictable cash flow from one of the most valuable stretches of land in America. So MGM created its own real estate spin-off called MGM Growth Properties and started selling strip land on purpose. In 2019, MGM sold the land under the Bellagio to Blackstone for $4.25 billion. To keep operating the Bellagio, MGM agreed to pay roughly $245 million every year in rent. Then they sold the land under MGM Grand and Mandalay Bay to Blackstone for another $4.6 billion. Annual rent was $292 million. Now, the casino did not change. Who got paid first did. By 2022, Vici Properties acquired MGM Growth Properties in a $17.2 billion deal. So, today Vici is the largest landowner on the Las Vegas Strip. It collects rent from Caesars. It collects rent from MGM. It collects rent from Hard Rock. Same Wall Street landlord, different casino operators. So, these deals use what is called triple net leases, and Wall Street loves them. That means casino operators pay everything: rent, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and most renovations. Rent escalates every year, typically 2% annually, and sometimes it is tied to inflation. These leases run 30 to 50 years. Now, let us do the math on the Bellagio. MGM got $4.25 billion up front. They pay $245 million per year. Over 30 years, that is $7.35 billion in rent, and that does not even count escalations. Blackstone bought the land for $4.25 billion, and it will collect at least $7.35 billion. That is a mid-single-digit annual return on a trophy asset in the middle of the Strip, with rent increases baked in. So, for Wall Street, it is predictable income on irreplaceable real estate. For MGM, they got cash now, but they gave up owning one of the most iconic pieces of real estate in America for decades and possibly generations. And here's the critical shift. Rent doesn't care about vibes. It doesn't care about nostalgia. It shows up every month. Once rent became unavoidable, patience got expensive. Vegas didn't stop taking risks. It stopped taking risks that cannot be justified. So, this is where Wall Street's logic changes what gets built and what disappears. Let's talk about what's gone. In 2016, the Riviera was demolished. It had been on the Strip since 1955. Frank Sinatra performed there. It appeared in Casino, The Godfather, and Austin Powers. Today, it is a parking lot for the Las Vegas Convention Center. In 2024, the Tropicana was demolished. Opened in 1957, it survived the mob era, corporate takeovers, and the mega-resort boom. It is being replaced by a baseball stadium. The Mirage, the casino that invented modern Vegas and launched the mega-resort era, closed in July 2024. It's being rebranded as the Hard Rock. And the volcano that defined the Strip for 35 years is already gone. It was demolished in August 2024. Now, these were not broken businesses, but under Wall Street's math, they were not optimal uses of land. When you are paying $245 million a year in rent, you do not keep a free volcano running unless it can prove it drives $245 million worth of incremental revenue. Good luck proving that. So do not expect another Bellagio fountain. Do not expect another Eiffel Tower replica. Those spectacles cost tens of millions to build. They do not charge admission. They attract crowds who might not gamble. They create vibes. They create goodwill. They create the Vegas experience. But vibes do not show up on a landlord's rent statement. When you are a tenant paying rent every month, Everything needs to justify itself on a spreadsheet. And that is why the Strip feels more itemized now. In 2016, MGM introduced resort fees. Today, most Strip hotels charge $30 to $50 per night in mandatory resort fees on top of the room rate. Parking used to be free. Now it is $18 to $30 per day at most major casinos. The Bellagio used to comp high rollers everything: suites, meals, shows, flights. Now comps are algorithmically calculated based on theoretical loss per hour. Everything is optimized. People do not say Vegas is expensive anymore. They say it is not worth it. And that is what happens when Wall Street's logic replaces owner-operator logic. The numbers tell the story. So here is the clearest proof. In 2023, VICI Properties reported $3.6 billion in rental revenue. Their largest tenants? Caesars and MGM. VICI's net profit margin is around 70%. That is because they do not run casinos, they do not staff hotels, they do not book shows. They own the land and collect rent. Meanwhile, in 2023, MGM had an operating margin of around 10%. Caesars had an operating margin of around 20%. The Wall Street landlord makes far more profit than the casino operators. And that tells you everything about who has the leverage now. So, Vegas has evolved through 4 eras. The mob era, when ownership meant control of the cash. The corporate era, when public companies replaced organized crime. The mega resort era, when spectacle became the product and owners built volcanoes. And now, the rent era, when Wall Street became the landlord. Look, Vegas is not dead. It is disciplined. It is optimized. It is operating under Wall Street's financial reality now. The volcano is gone. The fountains still dance. But now they have to justify their existence every quarter to a landlord who does not care about magic. Vegas did not lose its magic because people stopped coming. And it did not lose its magic because casinos forgot how to entertain. It lost leverage for long payback creative investments when Wall Street separated ownership from operation. That did not kill creativity, but it made patience expensive. Welcome to the Vegas rent era. The show did not end, it just got a new landlord.